Very good morning to you. How can the bloc work better together, and what sort of future do you see emanating from the devastation of the pandemic?
Thank you very much, Jane, for the opportunity. We've had quite an interesting conversation in the past week amongst the BRICS blocs, and it's been a conversation between government and private sector to really come up with ways to survive the impact of COVID. Three top priorities have come out of the conversation and that we'll be pursuing in the immediate term to try and recover. One is to facilitate the levels of intra-BRICS trade, particularly value-added trade. There's an appreciation that the trade volumes between the bloc have been declining, so it's about how do we arrest that trend. Secondly, we've agreed that there's a need for intra-BRICS investments, and the increase there too is the only way that we will cope and navigate the ravages of COVID. We need to begin to invest in each other's economies. South Africa has an infrastructure build that the president has announced, so it's about mobilizing investments around that as a way for us to survive COVID impact. The third area, not necessarily least strategic, is around BRICS Africa cooperation. We had a strategic conversation as well about each BRIC member state has an interest in on the African continent. So how do we begin to build a sustainable program of cooperation, supportive of AU initiatives, supportive of individual host country imperatives, so that we avoid a race to the bottom or race to the top, as it were. So it's also about setting up strategic interventions that are going to be supportive of the African integration agenda, and South Africa playing a strategic role as well in guiding and advising.
Tell us more about South Africa's involvement here and what it is that we can bring to the table, what we can lead.
Absolutely. South Africa has actually been leading quite a number of areas in terms of the BRICS. Even the initiative of the BRICS Bank was a South African initiative, so that's one of the key issues to note. What we are also bringing to the table as well is about shaping the agenda for the integration and the investment on the African continent. Domestically as well, it's about shaping the agenda for creating an export culture and an exporting South African economy, because we've noticed that there are quite a number of opportunities abroad that we are not taking advantage of as a country. So exporting has become central now to the economic recovery agenda and trajectory for South Africa. So our conversation with the BRICS and any other global partners is really around that, to secure that market access and to secure that space for South Africa and South African entities, and of course to begin to secure that space for the broader African continent. So there are quite a number of initiatives that we are supporting as a department around that, to make sure that we become the exporting country that we have positioned ourselves to be.
And if you get that right, what sort of impact are you looking at when it comes to jobs?
We're looking at strategically quite a number of jobs being created. Already as we speak, the exporting sector is contributing 30% to GDP. And we are talking immediate jobs, because in the exporting space, when we begin to secure greater market access for a company, that means greater level of shifts, greater level of people employed. And it's employment around the entire value chain, from the labeling, the packaging, the logistics, the actual production. So the exporting sector is fundamental to the economic growth and recovery of the country. And our challenge as the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition is to begin to inculcate an exporting culture, for us to begin to appreciate how important and how dynamic and the resilience that exporting can build in the economy. Another thing that we've learned as well is that in terms of the infrastructure build and the manufacturing and industrialization agenda that we have, if we don't have an external export platform, a number of companies that are servicing some of these projects don't tend to survive, because the South African market is small and is contracted even further because of COVID. So it's become even more urgent that we support, we strengthen external markets, and we build an export agenda as a country and begin to talk about it, begin to support it, begin to encourage our entrepreneurs to become exporters, and to begin to now, and thank you for this platform as well, to talk more about it, about also the interventions that government has to support entrepreneurs to become exporters.
Well, I mean, I think that's key, isn't it? I mean, that's what entrepreneurs are so frustrated about in this country. They don't feel that they have the support that they need. So hopefully this will bring them up. But at the same time, what sort of business plan are you looking at when it comes to containment procedures? Because this pandemic's not going to go away anytime soon, and I suspect it's not going to be the first of the pandemics of this century.
Absolutely. Strangely enough, the pandemic has also forced us to start thinking outside the box and to begin to look at much more long-term sustainable and digital ways of marketing South African goods and services. So basically, as a department, the support that we provide is the entire value chain of exporting. So we provide exporter development support. So for an enterprise that has never even exported, that has no idea where to begin, we've got a program for that. You know, what we call a Global Exporter Passport Program. So it's a capacity building program fully paid for by government, where we would then take a potential exporter into the requirements, trade agreements, labeling requirements, that whole standards and the like. So there's that aspect. So in the past, we used to offer the training in situ. Would go to all 9 provinces and would make sure that we provide training that way. COVID has forced us to begin to say, how do we then create strategic webinars around that? That will then also increase our reach, increase our impact, because we've got more people then that can sign on and begin to access that type of information. We also support current exporters or those companies that have grown enough in the domestic economy that want to access global markets. We've got export promotion incentive programs where we support, you know, to promote South African goods and services abroad, pavilions, trade missions. Traditionally, would go again to the market. So we are now working with strategic partners like Proudly SA to have a digital platform where companies can begin to showcase their products and services to potential buyers abroad. So COVID, in a strange way, has been positive in that we've begun to rethink the export promotion model and the export facilitation model, and to begin to go digital, and we'll have a far greater reach that way. Another area of support is that we've got...
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there, but good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Shane.